Hey folks, DC here, DC's Gadgets. It is April the 14th. Yeah, April 14th, 2020. Still got a cough. It's not corona. It is, I have seasonal allergies and my head's stuffy somewhat. And I got the post-nasal drip thing and I got a cough. So anyway, um, topic today's going to be marking queens. Before I get into marking queens, I'm going to hit something else. I think most of us, especially when you get old like me, have got these little pet peeves. Things that just bug us, that probably shouldn't, but they do anyway. And one of the things that really bugs me is when folks accept something that's written in an old book as if it is hard and fast and never changes. There's a reason why encyclopedias were updated. Of course, some folks have never seen an encyclopedia before. I understand that, but I grew up with encyclopedias, and you wouldn't buy a 5-year-old set of encyclopedias because they're outdated. And so stuff that's written down in books that's more than a couple years old may or may not be accurate. And a couple of cases in point here. 3 years ago, all the writing about the varroa mite said that the varroa mite is sucking the blood out of the bee, or the hemolymph out of the bee. And then Dr. Ramsey comes on the scene and says, hey, wait a minute, they're not eating the hemolymph, they're actually feasting off the bee's fat body. So, hey, obviously that's wrong, but if you go back and read the book, then you're wrong. So, the thing that's got me bugged, probably shouldn't, but anyways, this whole thing about queen cells. You find a queen cell on the bottom of a frame, and people say immediately, oh, it's on the bottom of the frame, it's got to be a swarm cell. Or it's in the middle of the frame, it's a superfugia cell. You use your head, folks. Look at the whole beehive, see what's going on inside of it before you make a decision. So, and trying to encourage this, I put a link to my last queen video up, and this guy responds back about how it's illegal for me to do this while driving down the road in the truck, and called me a know-it-all. Thank you very much. I like to compliment. Anyway, all right. So let's get on the topic of marking queens. Let's look at the why and the how. The why is, and back to the book again, if you read the books will tell you that queens can survive for anywhere from 3 to 7 years. Depends on what book you read. And I've talked to a lot of beekeepers, different places, and some people remember having queens that actually lasted like 4 or 5 years. But of all the beekeepers I've talked to, in the places I've been, there have been a lot of different places, I've not found anybody who could say for certain that they've had a queen more than 2 years. In fact, last year, the National Honey Show, it's Great Britain's national bee school. I have a lot of guest speakers. There was Roger, I can't think of Roger's last name. Roger was one of the speakers. They talked about the fact that you don't have the longevity in queens now as you had years ago. And Dr. Ellis, Jamie Ellis up at University of Florida, he and I talked about this several times in the last year or so about how long would you expect a Florida queen to live. And his thoughts were, if she's 2 years old, she's old. In fact, most Florida queens don't make it a full year. And so for that reason, I'm in Florida, and most of the people I work with are in Florida. I really encourage folks to mark your queens, because you're working your beehive and you see your queen today, and you're working your beehive next week and you see your queen again. You may not remember exactly what she looked like, especially if you got more than one beehive. But if she's got a dot on her back, and it doesn't matter what color dot, if she's got a colored dot on her back, and you know that there's a marked queen in your colony, and you open it up one day and there's no longer a marked queen, but you see a queen, then that's a red flag, or whatever color flag you want to consider it. Something in your colony has changed, and perhaps you should take note of this and be careful, because if you got a feral queen in there, or the queen went out and mated with some really bad drones, long-haired biker drone, I'll probably get some flack for that. You may end up with some really mean bees in a month or a month and a half. Or they may stay nice and calm, but at least you know that, hey, something has changed. And so I'm currently chatting with someone who lives down in the, I think down in Miami, or maybe closer to Tampa, I'm not sure, down in the southern part of the state. who's got a situation where they had bees and the colony has been pretty nice and calm, but here recently it's gotten to the point where you can't open the box, they're trying to kill you. So there are a lot of factors involved. It could be environmental, it could have a high mite load. I know that's one of the first things I hear when people talk about attitude. Oh, have you checked your mite loads yet? Like, okay. It's almost like throwing a frame of brood in. Mite loads aren't the only problem, and a frame of brood is not the only solution. But yeah, okay, it could be mite loads. It could be a number of things. And it could be a really nasty queen. So those are all the things to check. Have you seen your queen? And in this case, the individual has seen the queen. And I asked, is it the same queen as before? And they didn't know because it wasn't marked. So I think it's a good idea to mark your queens just for the simple reason it makes it easier to find her, and also if something changes, you know that. So let's go into how to mark it. There's a lot of different ways you can mark your queen. If you watch, Michael Palmer does it with like a model paint. At least he has in the past. I've watched him. He'll catch the queen and break off a weed or a stalk of grass or something and dip it in some model paint and then dip it on the back of the queen and mark her. Like, okay. Most people use little paint markers. Posca is one brand. I've got one here called Painters. I use this. This one's white. I can see white. I'm colorblind. So some of them are trouble. I mean, last year, the official color last year was green. I had a hard time seeing that. This official color this year is blue. I can see the blue pretty good. I see white. So I do the white for the most part. Anyway, back on topic. So marking different methods. Now some methods, and I've got a couple of different things, gadgets and gizmos. The plunger marking cage is pretty common. You've got a cylindrical tube with a plunger that's got a hunk of foam rubber on it, and you catch the queen, you stick her in the tube, and you kind of gently push her up to the top, and you've got a screen at the top where she can't get through, and you can reach her with a pen. Works really well. I use one of them a lot. Does a great job. You gotta get a good one though, because the one I got was actually pretty junky. The holes were too small for my marker. Had to go take a drill bit and open the holes up to actually make it work. So, get something decent. Next to that is they have this like one-handed catcher thing with a sliding lid that you can use one hand and you actually catch the queen and you've got her in a marking cage already. That's a little bit easier to work with than the other one is. There is this thing about catching queens in marking cages and clips. How many folks out there have tried to catch a queen in a queen clip and cut her in half? Yeah, I've done that myself. Don't like queen clips. Only for a couple reasons. I've caught queens in queen clips and had them get out. Don't know if the holes are just too big or maybe the spring wasn't tight enough or whatever. But the method I've been using for marking queens, and I know not everybody's going to do this, is I'll reach down on the frame and grab her right there where her wing's attached to her body, and just hold on to her for a second while she's on the frame, and just hit a dot on her back and blow on it for a second and let her go, and she'll run off and drink some honey or whatever she's going to do. I have not yet seen the other bees try to lick the dot off. I have heard people tell me that they've seen it happen, but so far it hasn't happened for me. And I know that a lot of people are thinking about trying to grab the queen. They're kind of scared of doing that. So the story goes, and you're going to hear this more than once, I'm sure, because this is a pretty common story, and it happens to a lot of people. And I have met someone who actually did this. The common way to practice this is to grab drones and mark drones. So I met somebody at South Florida Bee School last fall. I think it was fall. Come on, so around. And anyway, last year when I was at South Florida Bee School in Davie, I met a young lady down there, and someone had told her, grab drones and practice on drones. And so she got her a paint pen, and she was in her beehive one day grabbing drones and painting drones and just having a good old time. And she painted maybe, I don't know, a dozen drones, 20, I don't know. She painted a bunch of drones. And in the process of painting all these drones, queen pops up on the next frame. She pulls up and she's just all excited, and she decides she's going to paint the queen. So she reaches down and she grabs the queen. She paints the queen. The problem was, she was painting drones with the same color pen. She's the same color pen. I don't know what color. She might have had like a white and a green or a blue. I don't know. She had two colored pens. She was going to paint the queen a different color, but ended up with drones and queens. So now she's got 25 queens in the box. The good thing is eventually all your drones are going to die off, and the queen should still be there. But find a way to mark the queen. You can practice on drones. So your second option to marking her on the frame is get this thing called the crown of thorns, and I'll put a picture up with the video, and you can buy them on YouTube, on eBay, and some of the different bee suppliers. It's pretty simple to use. And get a good one. I mean, the cheap plastic ones, I have one. It came in a kit with a bunch of other junk, and that's what it is. It's junk. The holes are way too small. You can't mark a queen with it. You need something with decent sized holes. So, I mean, you could make one out of a piece of something round with some nails in it and a piece of hardware cloth, but for what it's worth, I just go ahead and buy one. But that'd be pretty easy. You spot the queen on the frame, and you can just stick this thing right on top of her and hold it there for a second. Get her in just the right position. Stick that dot right through the middle of the grid, and if you want to, you can hold it there a little bit longer while the paint dries, and then take it off. Should actually making physical contact. So if you're afraid of actually grabbing her, physical contact, that'd be a way to go. I would actually prefer that myself than trying to catch her in one of the cages. Like I said, I did. It's been a while, but yeah, I did. I tried to catch a queen in a queen clip one day. I had a metal queen clip, and they tell you, you don't just try to catch the queen. You're trying to catch the whole group of bees around the queen. And hit that clip down there to grab her. I'm looking inside. I don't see her at first, and then as I'm looking and looking, I notice that I see half a bee in there, and that's the half of the bee was actually half of the queen. And unfortunately, when you cut her in half, you don't get two queens. But my bees did make a new one, so I mean, they're resilient that way. That's all I got for today.